Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the 3 Point Podcast, your place for all things NBA news, debates, and discussions. I'm joined here today by my co-hosts Tyrik and Gabe, where we will surely have some debates and some controversy while discussing our 2022 All-Star ballots. But before we get into it, if you guys do enjoy, be sure to leave a like down below, subscribe, leave ratings, whatever you need to do on the appropriate platforms to get this out to more people and grow our NBA community. And let's first start off with a little bit of NBA news here on the week. We'll start off with the biggest trade so far in this developing NBA trade season. That was the Atlanta Hawks sending Cam Reddish over to the New York Knicks. We saw Pick and Kevin Knox head back the other way. But I'll get your thoughts on the trade here. The first trade of what should hopefully be a busy trade deadline, but finally the Hawks are starting to move some pieces and decide Cam Reddish is the guy to go first.
Yeah, my thing is I feel like they could have got something better in return. It's just like Kevin Knox is like a guy that's not been getting any minutes, and then you get a heavily protected first-round pick. It just seemed like, Cam Reddish is somebody super talented. I think he has all-star type potential if everything can go right for him. And I feel like they could have just got something more, but they said the Hawks are looking to make more than just this move. So I guess we'll just have to see what transpires in the next month. But I think for the Knicks, definitely a W of a move. Hopefully Cam gets on the court soon because he still hasn't played a game yet in New York. But I like the move for the Knicks.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's a good move for New York, especially getting Cam Reddish back with getting him back with RJ. They've been teammates before. And then especially on Atlanta's end, it doesn't look good right now, but if they're flipping it into something else, I think that would be nice. So yeah, like he said, we'll see what they do. I think a big thing with them not getting a lot in return is because they didn't really have leverage since Cam Reddish was kind of asking out, So they kind of had to take what they can get at that point. But I feel like his stock even then should have probably been a little bit higher than what they got back.
Yeah, I feel like the Hawks just kind of shoehorned themselves into not getting good value here. They were talking since the draft that they just wanted a first-round pick for Cam Reddish. I don't know why they ever did that. I agree they probably could have gotten more value for him, but between Reddish kind of wanting out, they were going to have to pay Cam Reddish this summer. It didn't seem like the Hawks were going to want to do that. I just feel like they could have got more if they presented it more from a Daryl Morey standpoint where they're just asking for an egregious amount and you end up settling for less. Now, Morey sometimes takes that to an extreme, but I feel like the Hawks kind of sold themselves short starting from this offseason just saying, we want a first for Cam Reddish. And well, ultimately that's ended up being all that they got when they probably should have got more.
Yeah, and I feel like you should want more than a pick.
Yeah. Another thing is, why didn't a team like the Cavs offer, if that's the package, I think the Cavs could offer something a little more enticing than Kevin Knox. Like a team that could actually really, really use. I wanted to see Cam Reddish in Cleveland so bad, or even in Detroit. I think he would have fit well there too. But that's the NBA, man. Sometimes it's just super unpredictable, especially when it comes to trades.
Yeah, definitely. If you would have told me that Cam Reddish would have got dealt for that, it just doesn't make sense. You would think someone would have cared to put in a bigger offer, but apparently not.
And I don't know why Atlanta's looking for a pick specifically. If they flip it, that makes sense, but that is a lot of protections, which makes it not too, something other teams would want. But, that team just made the conference finals last year. You'd think they would want pieces to contend and, get back on the right track and make a playoff push instead of selling. They seem like a team that should be a buyer.
Yeah, you would think so, but it's Collins doesn't seem happy. They just traded away Reddish. I don't know what's going on over there. The team isn't playing well, and they're in a weird spot. I don't know. I don't know what's going to go on with them, but I totally agree. A team that just played so well, but it doesn't really look like they're that heavily pursuing to improve the team. I don't know.
And it's so weird that John Collins is unhappy. Bro, you got the bag that you wanted. Why are you unhappy, man?
For sure.
I don't know. Are we going to get to the point where it's do people not like playing with Trae Young or something?
No, if it's Trae Young, I don't know if it's just man needs to be 7 games above 500 and this isn't a problem. I don't know.
Yeah, he is a super ball dominant point guard, but I feel like John Collins is not a guy that would thrive having the ball in his hands a lot.
No, I feel like John Collins wants the ball in his hands a lot, but if he had that scenario, sure, he could do that like Jeremy Grant's doing in Detroit right now, but you're not going to be on a competitive team.
Right. That might be what he wants, but I don't think that's what wins games.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Trae Young makes it easy for a lot of those guys to get their stats.
Oh, 100%.
That's why John Collins got paid in the offseason because Trae Young had a big part in that. That's all I'm gonna say though. That's all
No,
I'm gonna say.
100%. Well, as
But
far as
there was more trade talks. Was we going to touch on the Paul Millsap situation? I think that was kind of interesting.
yeah, I mean, it looks like him and Brooklyn are kind of parting ways. He's played like 2 of the last 17 games now for Brooklyn. He hasn't really been a significant part of Brooklyn this year, and I don't know, like, he just hasn't been good this year. I don't know if he's going to have a significant role anywhere he goes at this point, but it might be another contender that makes a move for him.
I
They
already know
definitely
the
had a log
Lakers are going to
jam.
be in talks.
They had such a log jam up there with they had like LaMarcus Aldridge came back, Blake Griffin. I know he was in and out of the rotation for a while, which was like a coach's choice thing, not even an injury thing. It's then of course Millsap. So it doesn't surprise me that he left. And I wouldn't be surprised if I saw the Lakers there, but that would just be awful because that team already like all their issues. I feel like he would
I
not
don't even
help
think he
the
helps that
problems they
team.
have.
No, I don't think he
No,
helps. They need mobility. They need activity. They need energy. Like, Millsap's just not given to that to you anymore, unfortunately.
right.
But any player that becomes available that was a past All-Star or
Oh,
something like that,
100%.
the Lakers are going to be linked. But
Yeah, 100%.
I think Chicago would be a good fit because they desperately need some
I agree.
forward depth. I think if he has anything left in the tank, Chicago would be the perfect place for him.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously he'll end up on a contender above anything else.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, Chicago were interested in the offseason, so it definitely wouldn't surprise me to see him move there. I don't know if he'll get bought out and then signed or if someone will throw a second-round pick the way of Brooklyn or something like that, but I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see Chicago make a bit of a play for him.
Yeah, that's a team that's going to have to make some moves for sure because all the injuries that they're dealing with.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of those injuries, we'll talk on that for a little bit now. Of course, earlier in the week, we saw Lonzo Ball go through a knee surgery. He's going to be out for, I believe, 4 to 6 weeks it is now. And unfortunately, after the foul from Grayson Allen the other night, Alex Caruso is now going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks as well with a wrist injury. So the Bulls are going to be shorthanded in the backcourt now. Ayo Dosunmu's been good. Kobe White's had moments, but they're going to have to rely on those guys a lot now for the next little bit moving forward. Levine should be back in the next week or so, hopefully, but ultimately it's going to be tough without those 2 guys. That's their defense right there as far as a perimeter standpoint goes, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think that's the toughest part is their defense is definitely going to suffer. We saw when Caruso missed like a month of basketball, their defense went from like okay to like pretty bad.
Yeah, they were like 27th, 28th in the league at that point.
Yeah, and this is going to be tough, man. And now your guard rotation is even more thin than it already was. It's going to be a lot, I think, on DeMar's shoulders offensively, and it's going to be when Zach LaVine comes back too. Like those guys are going to have to really be in their bags. I mean, they've been in their bags all year, but it's going to be magnified, man, because the Eastern Conference is so close between like the first and like 5th or 6th seeds. There's only like a few games separating those teams, so it's going to be a tough stretch, man. Hopefully those guys get well soon. And Grayson Allen, man, he has a bad history, just wild stuff.
He does.
Very bad history, man.
I know you don't mess with Duke, Tyrik, but so I know you got to feel some kind of way about Grayson Allen. Nah, but for real though, with the Bulls, like all these people out, all I'm saying is the MVP race is wide open right now. If the Bulls tee up with all these people gone, you got to put DeMar in there. That's all I'm saying.
You have to, definitely.
You have to.
I think he's already on. It's not even a short list. In my opinion, there's like 7 or 8 MVP candidates.
Yeah.
Like legit candidates.
At this point, with KD going out, it's in like a lot of people have like the best stat people are like low record. Curry's been playing like trash recently. Like it's been rough.
Yeah, definitely. Like I feel right now, if I had to pick a top 3, I'm looking Giannis, Jokic, Embiid, but they're not like very far in front of anyone else. Like it's so close. There's so many guys.
Even Ja Morant and LeBron.
For sure.
It's like in a couple of weeks, it could be totally different.
Well, exactly. No one was talking about Embiid as an MVP candidate 2 weeks ago, and here we are. Right? It's just kind of the way it's been. Giannis is nowhere to be seen.
This is probably the most like wide open race for the MVP I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think so too.
At least in like the last 10, 15 years. It's crazy.
Yeah,
he's
I felt
definitely
last
more
year was
open.
mainly that center battle. Like, at least in my opinion, last year was pretty much Embiid and Jokic with like then that Curry factor with the really good stats. But like, that was still only like a 3-man race. But usually it's only like 2. So the fact that we have over 5 right now is like super up in the air, and people can really capitalize still.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely going to be we still got lots of basketball to play. It's going to be a lot of shifting in those rankings before we get to the end of the season for sure.
Definitely. Gabe, did you say you had a trade article that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, it's the 7 most like desperate teams to make a trade deadline move. So just looking at this, I want to ask you guys and see what move you think these guys should make, because there's definitely options for all of them, who they should move, who not to move, maybe move everybody. But the first one on here, desperate team at the trade deadline, Sacramento. I mean, they've been struggling again this year. They've pretty much been struggling every year since I was about 3 years old. So they need to do something to either bottom out and like get some sort of generational talent, or like buy in and try and like flip some young pieces for some sort of playoff push, just to make like the fans interested and just do something. So what do you guys think they should do there?
Yeah, they definitely need to do something. Like, I don't know. I could say so many moves with this team. I still think Buddy Hield needs to get moved personally, but I've kind of been on that train for the last 18 months. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but he's fine, but his contract's not great. There's so many guards there. I feel like he's this one that especially they don't need. He's a fine floor spacer, but defense has always been their biggest problem, and he's one of the worst defenders on the team and then in the league, period. So I'd move him. And long term, I don't think De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton work to an extent together, but they're both best on ball. Tyrese Halliburton's a great playmaker, and De'Aaron Fox isn't a great 3-point shooter. So I think you got to choose one of those guys at some point. Personally, I'm keeping Halliburton. I think he's a better team offense playmake guy, but I'd move one of those guys at some point. Buddy Hield could go. Harrison Barnes, you could try and get some value for to a contender. I don't think there's a trade you can really make with this group that makes them an immediate playoff team. So I think you kind of got to continue to think about the long-term build, as much as it sucks for Sacramento, but maybe they can get a Ben Simmons or a Domantas Sabonis, and maybe that helps them. But I don't think there's a quick fix here, unfortunately, but I think there's definitely some trades they can make.
Yeah. Fox on a team,
Yeah.
like as an initiator, I think that would work really well. Him going like, I don't know how contracts work out, but I imagine like a team like the Celtics that might need somebody to get something initiated and like get the ball to other people, kind of push the pace. Something like that. I would also keep Halliburton on the Kings if I were them. So yeah, a Fox swap somewhere, I think that would be in the cards for me sooner rather than later, because it's been about 5 years and they haven't really progressed at all.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Like, it's been 5 years since the Boogie trade, and they're pretty much in the same spot. I don't think Fox or Halliburton is gonna get moved. I think the most we might see is maybe Barnes and Buddy, hopefully. Maybe Marvin Bagley, but that might be iffy. But man, if I was in that front office, I would build with Tyrese Halliburton. I would build with Tyrese. And it's not a knock on De'Aaron Fox. I'm a big De'Aaron Fox fan. But I just think it's run its course, man. And I think he needs to get out of there. He doesn't look happy playing there. But it's just like they waited a little too late. Like, it looks like his values might have went down a little bit because it's kind of a down year. And now Philly's like, we don't want him. We don't want him, for a Ben Simmons trade. Maybe bring in Sabonis, see what that looks like. And maybe you can get another piece too in that trade. I don't know. It's tough. The Kings, they're just one of the worst franchises in all of sports. They are bad, very bad.
Yeah, it sucks. Sacramento's one of those teams. I always like the players they have. They just don't win. It's too bad.
Look,
Right.
I have sympathy for their fan base, but not for the organization, bro. They messed up
100%.
Tyrik Evans. They messed up Tyrik Evans' start to his career, man. They basically couldn't get Boogie any help. Then they had a somewhat successful season. Then they fired Dave Yeager for Luke Walton. Like, this organization, they just be asking for it, man.
Yeah, they definitely haven't helped themselves.
That's the worst. That's the worst coach firing I think I've ever seen. So the next team on this list, we were just kind of talking about, it's the Atlanta Hawks. Obviously, they just made the Cam Reddish trade. But that was kind of like a selling move for a team that should be a buyer. So they kind of need to do something else to I think they'll still probably make the play-in at this stage, but something to kind of make that push and be able to compete when it comes postseason time.
Let me ask y'all, what do y'all think about a Ben Simmons going to Atlanta? Because I've been seeing that a lot. I don't know how to feel about it, honestly.
I don't know how that works. Like, I've been seeing it a lot too, but I don't know how that works with their bigs. Like, that's a lot of spacing issues in today's NBA. Like, I know there's not ideal scenarios, not a lot of great spots for Simmons from that standpoint, but him and Capella especially just doesn't seem like a fit at all. It helps their defense a lot, which I think is good. But outside of that, I think from an offensive standpoint, that's just going to cause a lot of problems. It fixes a lot of the defensive things that they really need right now. But I don't know. It's okay, but it's not great.
Yeah, I think that trade has to be for Collins too, just given like contracts and Collins kind of wanting out. And especially if you have Collins, Simmons, and Capella on the floor together, that's just terrible. So unless you started to play like a small ball lineup where you put Collins at the 5 and maybe he's happier there, I don't know what his preferences are off the top of my head. But I don't like that for Philly even. If you put Collins on Philly, I don't really like him next to Embiid either.
And then
So I feel
Tobias
like
at
in
the
that
3
case,
is weird.
even Philly says no to that, at least I would assume.
Yeah, I don't see how that works either way.
I don't know. I can't picture what moves the Hawks are kind of envisioning.
Yeah, I don't see the pieces they have to make a big move to get a big piece, but at the same time, it doesn't make sense for them to sell. I don't know. They're kind of in the middle right now.
I think they could flip Gallinari or Bogdanovich for something. Maybe
Gallinari
even
should go for sure.
I forget he's on that team.
Oh, me too. He's been nowhere near as good this year, but yeah, he's non-guaranteed next year, so he's essentially a free agent because he'll probably get waived. So I would expect they'll move him. But
they also have Okongwu as a piece, but he's been playing pretty well this season. So, they could flip him for some sort of veteran or something if they wanted to, but I don't know if that'd be the best decision.
Yeah, he's been good, but they also just extended Capella. I think he's got another 3 years after this year, so I don't know what they're going to do there either.
They do got some young assets too. Like maybe you can make a team bite on taking a shot at Jalen Johnson. But that's a big maybe because he hasn't really shown much on the NBA level. So they're in a weird spot, man. Very similar to last season, but I don't think they're going far in Nate McMillan. I would hope not, because I think it's deeper than just coaching, with this team. So
yeah, I
don't know. So. They said they're going to be active, so we'll see. We'll see what goes on.
Right. And then number 3 is probably the most obvious one on this list. It's the LA Lakers. Everybody knows their struggles this season. Everybody talks about it, very well documented, whether it's Westbrook or Vogel or AD or THT or whoever. Lakers fans are always talking about something else. So I'm not sure what the answer is for them because it seems like at this point the problem is almost everything besides LeBron. So if you guys were in that front office, or what would you do at that point if everything was going wrong, basically?
Man, if I'm the Lakers this year, I don't even know if you can do anything to fix this season. I'm going to be honest. Like, I think they are where they are. They don't have the assets to make the moves that are going to do anything enough to help them. Like, as much as it sucks with LeBron, the smartest thing they can do is focus towards next year, honestly. Like, they just don't have anything they can do this year. They have one first, they have THT, they have Kendrick Nunn. It's kind of it. Like, they don't really have assets to make any significant moves. So I think they just kind of focus towards next year, and it is what it is. Unfortunately, they brought in a bunch of old guys that don't have the energy they need to do what they need to do. AD hasn't been good. The Russ fit hasn't been great, and he hasn't adapted the way he's needed to. It's just not a good scenario.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. It's like there's not much to be like. You don't have the pieces to make any big splashes, and I think people are overrating THT big time.
For sure.
And also, I think Kendrick Nunn too. Like, Kendrick Nunn's a cool guy to come off your bench, but he doesn't do anything else but put the ball in the bucket. And he's a chucker too. Like, he takes a lot of shots. So I even think his value is a little overrated. You don't really have any draft capital. You don't have pieces to move, man. Like, if they somehow get Jeremy Grant, Rob Pelinka deserves every award that it gives to front office people, because that seems damn near impossible for me for them to pull that trade off. So there's not much, man. They might be a buyout team at best, but even then, you don't often see buyout guys really make serious impacts that's going to swing this team from, a 6-7 seed to being a championship contender like we all thought they was going to be.
Well, and who's going to want to join that team as a buyout guy right now anyways, realistically?
Right. I don't even know.
So,
I don't even know many buyout candidates this year either, like off the top of my head.
No, there's not as many for sure guys that we've had like in previous years where we're getting like Drummond or Griffin or stuff like that. At least not yet.
Yeah. So I don't even know if they'll make any moves, but the next team I definitely think will, the Indiana Pacers.
We hope.
I assumed they were going to trade Miles Turner, but because of his recent injury, I don't even know if he'll be available to trade by the time the deadline comes. So that might be cause for Sabonis to be out the door, because I think they're going to split them up. I think it's time. I think they almost have to at this point. I also think Karis LeVert could be out the door. So if any of the teams on this list actually made a move, I think the Pacers are most likely to actually sell something.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Pacers definitely got to make a move. I've been on that train for like 12 months now. They've stuck in mediocrity. They're fine, but they need to make a move for sure. I still feel like Turner gets moved more so than Sabonis does, just because he has more value based on value to production. I don't think you get anywhere near as much value back as Sabonis than you do Turner relative to how impactful they are for Indiana. So I think that's the only reason why, as long as the injury doesn't screw them up too much. And LeVert's just never looked like a guy they really thought was going to be the long-term piece. So I think he gets moved too. I don't think his value's great, but they need to make some moves. I hope they do. Maybe Jeremy Lamb gets moved too, some guys like that around the edges. But I just hope they make some moves, period.
Yeah, I hope everybody gets traded. Hope everybody gets moved.
Yeah. They remind me of Atlanta in like basically the entirety of the 2010s Atlanta, where they made the playoffs every year but never really made like a serious threat to the title. And then, they decided to sell everything eventually, bottomed out, got Trae Young, and now they're back on the up. Struggling this year, but past couple of years have been on the up. So if they could follow that pathway, I think that worked very well for them. Next is the Boston Celtics. I think I'm going to I just want to give this one to Tyrik and let him talk. As the Celtics fan in here, just tell us how you feel about the Celtics right now.
How do I feel about them?
Yeah.
I think this is like the worst Celtics team I've ever watched. Personally, like that's how I feel about them. And it's just like I have no faith. I have no confidence in this team, in their ability to close games out, man. It's the same story every single night. Everybody's gonna say split up the Jays. I don't think so, man. Those guys are still super young, super talented, and they've never really had a competent like roster built around them, outside of like having other star guys. But I think they need complementary pieces more than anything, more than a third star. I think people want them to chase a third star. Just get them like a competent playmaker. Get them some good jump shooters. Get them some solid, big man depth and stuff. It's a lot, man. It's just so tough because you're paying these guys max money. And, the only other guys that maybe have value is like Marcus Smart, Rob Williams. And those guys are instrumental to the team's defense, which has been much improved. So I would not want to be Brad Stevens, man, because he's going to have to make some tough decisions. I don't know if that's going to be this trade deadline, but definitely going into the offseason. Moves are going to be made for sure, man, because this team underperforming like crazy.
Yeah, definitely. I feel the same way. I need a playmaker, need some guys that can make some shots, but it's definitely not time to split up Jalen and Jason yet, but definitely need some better pieces around them for sure.
Yeah, and it's just
the
like,
guy
man,
that,
I was just going to say, like, the guys that they've been drafting to, like Romeo Langford has not really done much. Aaron Nesmith was drafted to be a lights-out three-point shooter. He's shooting 23% on the year. It's just the team construction, Danny Ainge, he left this team in shambles, bro. He left this team in shambles.
All those like mid-level picks, I feel like they haven't been hitting on a lot of them, and those are usually your role player complementary guys. Obviously, they drafted well at the top of the lottery with Jalen and Jason, which, those are pretty hard misses. So, I would hope so. The guy that I would want for the Celtics for sure would be Rondo as a playmaker, just because I think he's definitely a way better shooter than he used to be. Definitely a Boston legend. So him going back there would be cool to see. I think that his ability to find other guys and always make the right play, I think on a team that kind of stagnates a lot, especially closing out games, he's always going to find the right guy, and you don't rely on the Jays to just take super tough shots down the stretch. So somebody of that mold I would really enjoy there.
Yeah, it's somebody of that mold for sure. When I was reading this BR article earlier, and they was saying like a Ricky Rubio type. I think Rondo falls under that category too. It's just like they've never played with a above average playmaker from the point guard spot, man. Like Marcus Smart has been the best, and he's like the most average playmaker in the league. So
Yeah,
man,
Kimba, Kyrie, Rozier, you always have like that like scoring, shooting point guard, but never like a playmaker, passer type guy.
exactly. I will say this though, I think Dennis Schroeder will get traded. Like I think that's probably definitely happening.
Yeah, I think so
sure.
too.
Then the sixth team on this list, this team has been so just depressing this year. It's just sad to see. There's one bright spot here. This is the Portland Trailblazers. The bright spot is Anthony Simons. He has been outstanding in the past month or so. I think in the month of like January, or I think just the last 30 days, he's averaging like 28 points per game on like 50, 40. I don't know if it was 90, but I know it was at least like 50, 40. He was playing out of his mind. So what direction would you go in if you were this team? Would you keep Dame with Anthony? Would you trade Dame and CJ? Or trade Anthony? Or like what would you do here? Who would you split up?
I think Dame's got to stay ultimately. I don't think there's any way he goes. I'm not against them moving him, but I think he stays. I'm not saying I fully agree with it, but I think he stays. And Anthony just kind of becomes that bona fide sixth man for probably play his starters minutes, but he's there nonetheless. But one of CJ or Norm's got to go. There's just way too many guards. The Norm trade was always weird for me. I didn't understand why Portland was the team that traded for him. They didn't need guards. They traded away Gary Trent, who I think now is a better defender than Norm is anyways. Like, Norm can play the three, but not really. He's 6'4". Like, it just doesn't make sense. So it's one of him or CJ's got to go. Covington, in my opinion, has got to go. Nurkic, you can kind of go either way with. Depends on what the assets are you're getting back in return. I wouldn't trade him away for nothing, but if you can get a first and something, then sure, maybe you look at moving him as well. But I think Dame stays. I think Anthony's got to be a key piece, but one of CJ, bare minimum, CJ or Norm have to go.
Yeah. Here's what I would do if I was in Portland's front office. I would probably sell all those guys like you just said, like Norm, CJ, Nurkic if you can. I think Covington's getting traded for sure. But I would probably just bottom out. You know, Dame's not supposed to play the rest of the year. I would just bottom out, try and get as high as a draft pick as I can get because I think theirs is like lottery protected, I think. If it falls out of the lottery, I think it goes to Chicago. So I'll bottom out, try and get a high draft pick. And then I'm packaging Anthony Simons in the offseason. I'm going to let him continue to rock out. And then I'm calling Philly again if Ben Simmons is still there. And I'm trying selling them Anthony Simons. Like he's y'all's answer. That's what I would do. But I think they can go either way. I think Anthony Simons is giving them the confidence, or he should be giving them the confidence to where if we do want to trade Dame, we have our point guard of the future. I think he's playing that kind of level. Like he's playing like he can be a franchise point guard, man. So this is a blessing in disguise that Dame got hurt, for sure. Let's just see how the front office handles it.
Hey, I hate to disagree with you guys here, but I think it's time to blow it up. I think it's almost like it's just if I were running this, I hate to say it because of how loyal he's been to the franchise, but I just think the time is up. I don't think they're ever going to get it done with Damian Lillard. Just nothing against Damian Lillard. It's just kind of the way that team has been built and the fact that him and CJ are like so intent on being together, it seems. It's like I just don't think that's a combo that wins a title. I would personally try to trade Damian Lillard to Philly for Simmons and some picks, offload CJ somewhere else for some draft capital, and then build around Anthony Simons, Ben Simmons, and a whole lot of draft capital. If you get off Norm too, get off Rocco for a pick, I'm sure a contender would want him. Just they have so much to sell, and just selling everything, bottoming out, plus keeping Anthony, and then getting Ben Simmons, who's still pretty young and already an all-star. I think that's a great way to set up a rebuild, and I just think it's time. Plus, I think if it's Dame that goes to Philly, Damon and Embiid that's a scary pick and roll. It's just a scary duo in general. And then they still have good enough pieces around them to really compete.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think the way Portland's constructed too, regardless of what they do trade-wise, Dame as the best player on that team probably isn't going to win you a title, regardless of what they do. I just don't think Dame's that guy. Dame's good, don't get me wrong, but I don't see Dame as that guy in a title team. If they get a number one defense, top 5 defense type team, maybe that changes a bit. But on an average defense, I don't think Dame's that guy for me to get them a title regardless of what they do. So I can definitely see that.
I was gonna say that too. Like, I think the team has to be perfect. Like, it has to be perfectly constructed around them.
Yeah, I think they can improve from what they have right now and build around Dame, but I don't think they're ever going to have a title team.
I agree, man. It's just,
so that's what I mean.
Nobody wants to go to Portland, bro. So it's like,
yeah.
I actually, like, Gabe, I want that direction too, but it's just, I don't think they're gonna do it.
No, that's how I feel.
I don't think they are either. I feel like they're going to be one of those teams who it's like, oh, Dame draws in jersey sales, ticket sales, keeps people coming in. But if Anthony Simons gets popular enough, I mean, he might be your next jersey seller for real. And so if you get off Lillard, get off Nurkic, get off Rocco, get off Norm, get off CJ, you sell all these players who all of them can at least get you one or two picks. And then probably at least one of them can get you somebody young from somebody who like is buying. So, I mean, they just have so many pieces, but then are also just so like not good right now that they could set up the perfect rebuild, I feel like. But
perfect.
With that being said, we're already kind of talking about this now while we're on the subject. Team 7 on the list is Philly, which the Philly thing is really just the Ben Simmons thing. So if Ben Simmons was not going to Portland, where do you guys think Ben Simmons would end up and when?
Where do I think? Personally,
Yes.
I don't think Ben Simmons is getting traded. I don't think he's getting traded this season. Maybe probably in the offseason, but I don't think he's getting traded this season, man. They're asking for too much. Daryl Moore is just being super stingy, man. It's just they just don't know what they want, and they're kind of wasting Embiid's peak right now. I don't think he's gonna get traded though, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way, which sucks because I'd love to see Embiid have a little bit more help right now. I think they could actually be a contender if they add a few pieces and whatever they'd get back for Simmons, even if it's nowhere near what Morey wants. They'd still add enough back that they could be a top team in the East. I mean, Embiid is just playing out of his mind right now, but unfortunately, they're just probably going to be a mid-tier Eastern Conference team. Yeah, like you say, maybe Ben gets moved this offseason, but I don't see a trade deadline trade for him either, unfortunately.
I really just feel like they're waiting for somebody to kick off the rebuild. Like I was just talking about Portland's rebuild, or I don't think like Washington and their situation, they're not signing a free agent and they pretty much are where they are. Like they're going to probably have to kick off the rebuild at some point. They just happen to have some of the most loyal stars in the league. So it's a lot easier said than done. But if one of those teams was like, okay, it's time to move on, it's time to blow things up, or some other team in that situation, I could definitely see a trade like that happening.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Like a year ago, they had James Harden on the table, and they didn't pull the trigger. That's ridiculous, man.
Yeah. How different it could have been.
All right, but that is the most desperate teams at the trade deadline.
Moving on to the big debate and controversy of the episode, time for the 2022 NBA All-Star ballots. We will each be giving our All-Star ballots for the year. We will start with the Eastern Conference starters, and we will work our way from there. I will pass it off to Gabe here to give off his list of starters first, and we'll go from there.
All right, so I'm going to start with my locks. The front court, I think, is a lock. Is KD, Giannis, and Embiid. KD obviously just went down. but he's played so great all season. That team is a top seed, and ballots or the starters will be coming out so soon. And especially he's so high up in fan voting that I don't think he'll be out long enough by the time that ends to knock him out of a starting spot. So I have KD there. And then I think Giannis and Embiid are very obvious. Like right now, they're at the top of the MVP ladder. Teams are towards the top of the conference. Stats are awesome, offense and defense. They're just playing amazing. First guard, I have DeMar DeRozan, who is a guard for some reason. I don't know why, but he is. So I'm going to take advantage of that because the Bulls have been at the top of the conference. DeRozan's been playing great, even with guys in and out of the rotation around him. And then I think my last one's probably the most controversial here. I have Trae Young, which statistically he's been playing great. He's just doing what he's been doing. I think he was a starter either last year or the year before. I think there was one year where he wasn't even an all-star. Then there was one year that he was like a starter. But he's just Trae Young. I don't know what more you can say. He pretty much carries the offensive load of his team. Towards the top of the league in playmaking, towards the top of the league in scoring. He just does it all for you on offense. And in the All-Star game, they usually value offense over defense. So if I'm making a prediction, I'm going with Trae.
My list is exactly the same. Everything you just touched on, definitely. My only question is, if KD does not play in the All-Star game, does the replacement have to be a front court player also, or can it be anybody?
Yeah.
I think know for sure.
Because last year, I thought
the
AD –
replacement starter.
Yeah. Yeah, the replacement starter definitely has to be a forward. But when we bring a snub, does it have to be a wing? A front court player? Can it be a backcourt guy or what?
I don't think so. Like, for instance, I'll just say now I have Jason Tatum as a backup forward. I think Jason Tatum goes into the starting lineup and then say, your 13th guy, if that's a guard, which I assume it is for all of us, just because that guy would just come in and be the last reserve.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, my list is exactly the same. I think the Trae Young one was like the biggest toss-up, but his numbers is ridiculous, man. I can't hold the Hawks' deficiencies against him. He's been great.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I got the same list. Like you say, Trae Young was the only one that was any debate on, but the Atlanta Hawks' problem has been their defense, not their offense, and Trae Young's not there for defense. So he definitely gets a nod there for me.
All right. Yeah. And then my backups were in the front court. Jimmy Butler. Miami's been towards the top, even with Bam out for most of the season. Jimmy's been playing, I think, really great this year. Offense and defense, always two-way player. A lot of big wins. Jimmy Butler. What more can you say? Jason Tatum is my second. He always plays nice. Him and Brown are so close. If Brown was a forward, this is basically just due to efficiency. But I feel like I think Brown's averaging like 1 point less. If Brown was a forward, I probably would have put him. But the team doesn't deserve two all-stars, and Tatum's the forward, so he's the guy I went with here. And then my third front court player for the backups was Jared Allen. Cavs are still playing way above expectation this season. And Jared Allen he's their defensive anchor, and they're one of the best defenses in the league. So I think you just reward that effort, reward his great play this year. And he's definitely having a breakout year, so I think he deserves it, especially the front court's pretty thin. So I think that's almost a lock that he'll make it. And then my backup guards was Zach LaVine, for a lot of the same reasons as DeMar. Bulls playing great. He's been playing great statistically. He's been out for a little bit now, but I still think he deserves it with what he's done this year when he has been playing. And then my last backup is James Harden, which once again, James Harden is James Harden. They've been down Kyrie for most of the year, just came back. KD just went down, and I think Harden will continue to do his thing and really lead this team to the top of the conference while KD's out.
Yeah, I got the exact same first five reserves. Like you said, I'm in the same boat. If Brown was a forward, I would probably have him over Jason Tatum. I can't even lie about that. Personally, I would. But yeah, Well said, Gabe. That's all I'm saying. Like, you pretty much explained everything perfectly, man. Shout out Jared Allen, though. I'm so happy that he's going to be an all-star. It's good to see, man, because a lot of people were saying they gave him a lot of money to just be a top 12 center, but he's probably been like top 5 this year, man. For real. He's been amazing. Shout out to him.
He has been really good, definitely. That being said, he is the one guy that differs from the list. I do not have him in my front court. It is no detriment to him, but I didn't give the Cavaliers 2 players. I did give it to Darius Garland in my 2 wild cards. That is pretty much the only reason he's there. Instead, I wanted to give the Bucks 2 guys. I gave it to Chris Middleton. I have him in my front court.
Man, hold up. Personally, I think Chris Middleton's been the 3rd best Buck this season. I think Drew Holiday's been better.
I can't disagree. Unfortunately, Drew Holiday is not a forward.
So why make your argument for Chris Middleton over Jared Allen?
It's not strong. I'm gonna be honest. That was one of the picks I struggled with the most. You can go with either way for me on that one. But just higher seed. Middleton's been doing his thing. I've really liked what I've seen from him defensively again this year. And obviously Jared Allen's been doing his thing too. But if I was going to give a team 2 instead of between the Cavs and the Bucks, I had to give it to the Bucks. But honestly, you could throw Jared Allen in there easily. I'm not really too strong on Middleton over Jared Allen. They both are deserving of it, as far as I'm concerned. Jared Allen's been great this year, but I went Middleton. Jared Allen's off my All-Star ballot, but
Middleton.
I don't feel strong enough to say Middleton deserves it over Jared Allen to any significant degree by any stretch.
Hey man, yeah. Speak your piece.
I feel like he's been their 3rd best player. His stats are pretty much the same as last year. He wasn't an All-Star last year.
Oh, he wasn't?
And then no, he was not an All-Star last year. He was an All-Star the 2 years prior, but not last year. And then, I mean, I don't know. I think he missed a little bit of time too. He's just not a guy that I really feel like has been highlighted that much this year. And I feel like the Bucks almost just are not good enough to have 2 All-Stars.
The East is just so close. The East is so close, man. It's like,
yeah, it is.
I'm not even sure what the standings look like right now, but I know the Bucks aren't that far ahead of the Cavs.
No, they're only a game ahead right now.
See, it's a tough call, but I think Jared Allen has done everything. Given how weak the front court is in the Eastern Conference and really in the NBA as a whole, like the front courts are very thin.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's hard for me to leave him off. I think it would be easier for me to leave Darius Garland off. And I'm driving a Darius Garland fan bus. Like, that's my guy. But, yeah, it's touchy, man. It is tough to give them 2 All-Stars, but it's in Cleveland too, man. They might as well.
Yeah, I think for the hometown crowd, and especially that offense has been really well run by Darius Garland, and Jared Allen is the heart of like a top 5 defense. And I think if you're like the heart of that, like, I think they might even be like top 3, at least like I think the last time I looked. But with a defense that good and him being that defensive anchor and that guy, I feel like it's almost like a Rudy Gobert-ish version of why he's an All-Star.
Yeah, for sure. I can see that. Yeah, they're top 3 right now. They're number 3.
So y'all want to get to the wild card spots?
Yeah, let's get to it.
Well, I guess we already know one of yours was Darius Garland. So why don't you start and tell us your other one?
Yeah, I went with Darius Garland for one, and call it bias or not, but I think he deserves it. I got Fred VanVleet in at the other one. The Raptors just aren't the same team without him. He's been so crucial, especially over the last month or so. He's been playing at another level. There's a ton of guys you can put in here that you could argue at the guard spot that get in over Freddie, but for me, Toronto have been good, especially as of late, now that they've had everyone healthy, and without Fred VanVleet, they're just not the same. So he's my pick.
Yeah. Toronto's in the playoffs right now, so I put Fred VanVleet as well. He's definitely their leader, been playing out of his mind. I mean, Scotty Barnes has been up and down. Pascal's been pretty well, but he missed like the first month of the year. Freddie's just been the heart and soul of that team. And so, yeah, I definitely think he deserves it. And I definitely, especially with, I mean, some of the snubs that also deserve it almost just as much. Like, some players will be out, so I think they'll make it anyways. So I definitely think it's a good choice to put Fred in that spot.
Who's your other guy? Garland?
My other one was Garland as well.
I also have Darius Garland. And I got LaMelo. I got LaMelo Ball. Yeah, I got LaMelo. I know Freddie's been crazy. The Raptors been hooping for sure, but the Hornets have also been playing well. I think the only argument against LaMelo is that there's times when James Borrego will just let whoever's playing well ride the game out. And sometimes LaMelo's on the bench when it matters most, but this team's not the same without LaMelo Ball, man. He's the engine. He's been playing amazing. And he just fits the All-Star game. Like, he's gonna put on a show, man. But I think Freddie's gonna get in though with the injuries and stuff for sure. And he does deserve it. And he's getting better and better as the season goes on. But I'm gonna stick with LaMelo because I made my list like 2 weeks ago. So I'm gonna stick with it though. Stick with it.
I do think both of them get in with the injuries. And then if there's a second injury, I'm gonna go ahead and say that's where I would put Bradley Beal. That would probably be my next guy in. It's because I think the Wizards deserve one before the Celtics deserve two, because then after Beal, my third replacement would be Jaylen Brown.
That's probably what I would do as well.
There might be a chance Bradley Beal still gets in. Like,
a chance.
Outright, man. Because his counting numbers are slowly going up, and the Wizards, even though they slowed down from their great start, they're still right in the mix.
They're 500.
No, they're still there.
So it's like he might get in just off, like, without injuries or anything, man. But personally, I didn't even he was one of my last snubs personally that I wrote down.
Yeah, me too. I didn't he was there. I thought about him because it's Bradley Beal, but it wasn't I'm not sure if I'm taking him.
Yeah, it wasn't a debate. I'm
yeah,
his start to the season was so bad, I can't have him in there.
Yeah, no, me too.
Okay, so Western Conference. Who wants to start off this time?
Well, I can give it a roll, I suppose. I started off last, and I'll start it off. I don't really have anything too controversial here in this Western Conference starting lineup. The third forward spot, I guess, is where there might be a bit of variation. But I got Steph and Ja in my backcourt. Steph, MVP candidate to start the year, has slowed down as of late, but at the end of the day has still been very good as a whole in the season. Golden State have been great alongside it. He deserves a spot. Ja Morant's dark horse MVP candidate as well. He's been the biggest reason why the Memphis Grizzlies have been as good as they have this year. There's other good guards in the West, don't get me wrong, but I don't think there's anyone else that's been as good as Ja has been this year. Mid-range, finishing at the rim, impact from a creation standpoint for Memphis. He's just got that down on lock for me. Jokic and LeBron are the two no-doubters in the West as far as forwards go for me. Jokic, top of the MVP candidacy, not really much that has to be said. He just continues to dominate on offense and is actually a very good defender now as opposed to being a negative defender in previous years. And LeBron has been pretty much the only bright spot, as we mentioned earlier, on a Lakers team that's been struggling. And then Draymond Green for the third forward spot for me. He's so crucial to what Golden State do from a playmaking standpoint on offense, and specifically from a defensive standpoint. He's got to be considered in Defensive Player of the Year conversations. That Golden State defense just isn't the same without him. And ultimately, he just deserves that spot for me on a good Golden State team that really relies on his success.
Personally, I think he is the Defensive Player of the Year, and I don't really think it's that close.
No, I don't think so either.
You see how much they are struggling without him, man. They're losing games.
I was just about to make that point. Draymond Green went out recently, and now they barely beat the Rockets. I think they got blown out by the Bucks, and it's just they have not been that team that had Curry as a unanimous MVP, which some of that is definitely Curry's play has stagnated a lot, but Draymond is very, very important. And the Warriors are still, I think they're still the 2 seed right now. So
Correct,
they're still worthy of 2 All-Stars, I say.
Yeah. I got the exact same list. I think if some guys weren't hurt, I might not have Draymond starting, but he's definitely the next most worthy guy to be in the starting lineup. So I think he deserves it, man. That might be controversial to some people, but I don't really think it is. Especially when you look at the front court pool, it's not that deep at all.
No, it's not. I'm not.
I don't think it's controversial to people who watch basketball.
Yeah, that's what I was just
People
about to
like,
say. I think people
yeah,
who
box
truly
score
appreciate
watchers.
how good Draymond is, it's not controversial. But to a
Yeah,
casual fan, it might be. Yeah.
box score watchers will have some things to say, but
He only averages 7, 8, and 7. Like what?
I am so curious as to what people on Twitter are going to say 20 years from now about Draymond. That's going to be so
Draymond averaged a
disrespectful.
triple single. He averaged a triple single and made the All-Star game.
He's a Hall of Famer. What? Man, but Gabe, do you have the exact same 5 too?
Yeah, I feel like that's very
Okay.
obvious. LeBron is LeBron. LeBron's always going to be a starter. Like Kobe Bryant in year 20 was a starter in the All-Star game just because, I mean, he's Kobe Bryant. LeBron's kind of that same tier now. Like he's going to be a starter in the All-Star game. Jokic, best counting stats in the league for all my money. Steph Curry spent the first 2 months of the season as the unanimous MVP. I would say 2 great months out of the 3 months of the year so far puts him there, obviously, and they're the 2 seed. Ja Morant started hot and has only stayed hot, was out for a little bit, but ever since he came back, he has been on absolute timing. And then, I mean, we were just talking about Draymond Green and his impact, so I kind of already talked about that. That's my 5.
Yeah, I think I'll just go ahead and get into the reserves because when I had initially made my list, it was kind of a toss-up between Ja and Donovan Mitchell. But I think since then, I think Ja's kind of separated himself just a little bit. But Donovan's still been crazy. He would be my first guard off the bench for the West for sure. Then my second guard, I got Devin Booker. I just think I hate how he's always in Chris Paul's shadow, even though D Book is that guy offensively. And he kind of got off to a slow start, but his numbers are creeping up. He's as efficient as ever. I think he's shooting 40% from 3. He's been amazing. This is where it gets kind of dicey because Paul George is going to miss some time, but I had him on my list initially, but now he's probably going to get bumped down for another guy, but that will help out. And then my 2 bigs, I got Rudy. No, you don't have to explain Rudy's impact. If you still have to explain why Rudy's an all-star caliber player, it's not worth having a conversation.
Just go watch Utah when Rudy isn't playing. That's all you need to do.
Exactly. And then my last guy, I got Cat. I think the Timberwolves deserve a guy, and I'm going to give it to Cat because best shooting big man of all time. And he looks like he cares about basketball again. I love to see it.
Yeah, it's been good to see. Better on defense this year, too, which has been nice. He's not some elite defender, but it looks like he's putting an effort on that end now, too, which is good.
Yeah,
my guards are the same. Donovan Mitchell, Devin Booker. Donovan's been great. Booker's been great. Mitchell, I feel like, has taken a bit of a step forward more again this year. I know the stats don't necessarily back it up, but he's definitely had moments this year where I feel like he's at a bit of a higher level. But as you mentioned, Booker, even though Paul's there, still been great. Gobert's impact is there. Karl Anthony Towns has been great. And then I do not have Paul George simply due to the fact of, as you mentioned, that injury holding him out. He was great to start the year, then slowed down a little bit, and unfortunately has missed a fair bit of time since then, which I think will probably keep him out. And, of course, now isn't going to be in the All-Star game regardless in terms of playing in it. I don't feel confident about anyone in the third forward spot. I took Brandon Ingram, not due to any bit of team record, but I think the Pelicans would be much worse off without him right now than just based on his impact. He's been very helpful in the Pelicans being any bit competitive, but I don't feel any bit solid in any choice here. You can make an argument for a couple of guys, but I don't really feel a third forward all-star has really shown himself in the West outside of Paul George, of course, being injured, and then AD's been injured too. So I don't really feel confident about either of those two.
Yes. So I gotta explain this one. So my front court, I did have PG. Obviously, he missed a little bit. I think AD will probably end up taking that spot because he'll be back probably by the time of the All-Star game, and PG will probably still be out. So I gave PG the spot, but then I think that replacement will end up being AD. Then I have Cat and Gobert. I feel like that's pretty much obvious. And so then in my guards, I have Luka here, which because for about the past month now, he's been on absolute fire. Though Mavs are rising up the ranks of the West very quickly. And I mean, out of those top teams in the West, it's the Grizzlies and the Mavericks that is just one main guy really carrying that load. So it's in this like round of backups, then my second was Booker, because then I had Booker and Gobert, so I gave the Jazz and the Suns just each one in this round of backups. And then my wild cards are Mitchell and Chris Paul. So that I think they both deserve 2 All-Stars, but I put those last 2 as my like wild cards. So that way they each had 2 in each round. Because I feel like they're on a similar standing for me.
Interesting. Very. I have Chris Paul also as a wild card, and I'm gonna just be honest. I don't have Luka. I don't have Brandon Ingram. I don't have Anthony Davis. I had to give it to DeJounte Murray, bro. I had to, man. I've been driving the All-Star bus, and I'm not stopping, man. DeJounte Murray, he deserves it. He might get in now because of injuries, but I think when I made my list initially, I had him in there, man, because Luka's missed so much time. Like he missed a good portion of the season. So it was very tough for me just to have him in there. And even when he was playing early on, he wasn't Luka. He wasn't Luka. Even though his numbers looked okay, he just wasn't Luka. So
Yeah,
that kind of
a slow start.
That affected me, like deciding this for sure. I had to give it to DeJounte, man.
Yeah, DeJounte is definitely the next guy I would have up, and hopefully he gets in because of injury. But I did have Luka, and I did have Chris Paul. But yeah, there's definitely an argument for DeJounte. He's been great. He's been fun to watch. But yeah, even Luka not being Luka was arguably an all-star. And now over the last month or so, the Mavs and Luka as a whole have just been better. So I had to give him the nod. But man, I'd love to see DeJounte Murray get in. I would rather DeJounte Murray get in from a personal bias standpoint, but I think it's Luka, and I hope DeJounte gets in via injury.
A player as popular as Luka, I feel like on a 5 seed, like that team is a 5 seed and he's their guy. I feel like if you're the solo, like put this team on my back guy on a 5 seed, I feel like you deserve to make the All-Star game. And then, but now that you do mention it though, I feel like replacements, DeJounte should be a replacement over AD. Because since the reserves, I don't think it has to be a specific, like, obviously it can be just the next guy up. So I do think that if PG does not play in the All-Star game, it should be DeJounte over anybody else. And then maybe Brandon Ingram, or AD after that. Because Brandon Ingram, I think, missed a lot of time as well.
Yeah, he did.
Which seems to be a theme with a lot of these West players. A lot of these West players have missed a lot of time. So a West player missing like a month at this point, it doesn't even really factor in that much.
No, it doesn't. I mean, everyone's missed time with health and safety protocols this year. So everyone's at least a few games down. So
that's what makes it tough. It's like it's hard to hold it against some people because it's like everybody's missed at least a week or two, it seems like. But I think some guys have missed a little more time than others. That's
definitely
factors into it a little bit. But man, I know one thing for sure. Dame wasn't an All-Star before he got shut down.
No.
On my list.
He wasn't. No, he wasn't.
Which is crazy to think of.
Too slow to start the year, and Portland just aren't good.
Exactly, man. But we all had some very, a lot of discrepancies, though, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like the biggest out there pick was probably you not having Luka. And then Chris Middleton, the Chris Middleton pick. That's all I'm gonna say.
Hey, I'm standing 10 toes on not having. Well, I'm standing 10 toes on having DeJounte Murray. 10 toes on it, man.
I hope he gets in. I hope he does.
Yeah, I wish they would allow a little bit more variability. Like maybe have some guys listed as guard/forward.
Yeah, like the fact that DeMar DeRozan is a guard is really
Man, that kind of – I don't know if that messed everything up. It's good for him that he gets to be a starter because he was not going to be a starter if he was a front-court player. But it's just we're in the era of positionless basketball, so we might as well just make it positionless in the All-Star game too.
Yeah, exactly. Or at least have DeRozan at the position he's been at for the last 3 years.
I think DeMar would probably start anyways, only on the basis that I think that he would be the 4th forward and Durant's not playing. Yeah. So, he wouldn't get that initial nod, but I do think that he would have started in the All-Star game.
Yeah, that's true.
Now Jason Tatum's probably going to start. He does not deserve it.
No, that's a yikes.
Hopefully they give
I think it might be Jimmy Butler. I think it'll be Jimmy.
Yeah,
because Miami is a lot better. And Miami's their own, like, they're a lot better than Boston right now. And Butler has been that guy because Bam's been out like the whole year.
Basically. He just came. I think he just recently
came back like
Yeah, it was
last
like
night
it was
or
like
a couple
2
nights
games
ago. Yeah.
Crazy, man. All-Star weekend's almost here. Crazy.
Yeah, in Cleveland,
only announced on Wednesday.
Only about 2 hours away from me and Tyrik. I might have to make my way up there.
I really want, like, I'm really debating on doing it. I ain't gonna lie. But I'm not gonna be in the arena, though, because those tickets are, like, crazy.
So, yeah, that's
might just have to go enjoy the vibes in the cold.
Right.
Well, I think that's going to be all for us today here. That is our 2020 NBA All-Star ballots. Be sure to let us know down in the comments what you guys think, anyone you would have in, anyone you would have out, as it's always a controversial topic, one of the more controversial topics every NBA season. Anything else you guys want to throw in before we wrap this one up?
Leave a like, subscribe. If you made it to this point in the episode, we appreciate y'all, and we got more content coming soon.
5-star reviews, subscribes, whatever it is you need to do on your platform you are watching on. The more we can grow and the more we can build the basketball community here on the 3 Point Podcast is what we want. Be sure to stay tuned again for next week, as we will be trying to do this on a weekly basis, same time, same place. Links to our socials will be down in the description below if you want more basketball content from us anywhere else. That being said, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.